Hannah, we both love a good rockumentary, don't we? But isn't it time we gave some recommendations for people who would rather listen to music than binge watch TV shows and films?
Funny you should say that, Ian, because British rapper Fletchy has just released his debut EP, The Colossal Apostle. It includes standout tracks Money Calling, This Is Crazy, and Ooh.
Ooh. And you don't have to just take our word for it. Fletchy has been shouted out by none other than LeBron James, as well as Dwayne Wade and Juicy J. A mix of humour, heartbreak, and hard-hitting beats. The Colossal Apostle is available to stream now.
And to find out more about this up-and-coming artist who is building a fan base on both sides of the Atlantic, follow at Fletchy2Fat. That's Fletchy with a Y, 2, Fat on TikTok and Instagram. Well, hello and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times, What's on TV and WhatToWatch.com. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday the 12th of September 2025, including Freddie Flintoff converting more youngsters to cricket as his Field of Dreams documentary series returns on BBC iPlayer, and Robin Wright directs and stars as a mother with reservations about her son's new partner, played by Olivia Cooke, in Prime Video thriller The Girlfriend.
And we'll also be checking out Zara McDermott's travelogue Thailand, The Dark Side of Paradise on BBC iPlayer, and horror series Playing Gracie Darling on Paramount Plus. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Well, of course, I have to mention that I'm very pleased that Grace Dent will be one of the new presenters of MasterChef. However, in other news, Prime Video have announced that Sophie Turner will star as Lara Croft in their upcoming Tomb Raider series, which is created by Fleabag's Phoebe Waller-Bridge. What else is in the news, Hannah?
And in the return of Disney Plus's adaptation of Jilly Cooper's 80s set saga Rivals, Hayley Atwell will join the cast as Helen, the former wife of dashing Rupert Campbell-Black, played by Alex Hassel, alongside Rupert Everett and her new husband Melise, her ex's one-time show-jumping coach. Of course, lots of fun there.
A superior selection for you this week, I would say. A couple of documentary series, a new horror drama, and a new thriller. We're going to start with the first of two on BBC iPlayer. It is Freddie Flintoff's Field of Dreams, Ultimate Test. And here's a clip.
We've had injuries, we've had shouting. And in between everything, we've had some half-decent cricket.
I've got no idea how this is going to go.
Why can't we do this again? On a bigger scale, with 2 or 3 different places, all at the same time. What could possibly go wrong?
So much for a team, isn't it?
You just got to prove it works.
Andrew Freddie Flintoff, former England cricketer, former Top Gear presenter, and award-winning documentary maker thanks to his series Field of Dreams, which, if you haven't seen it, there have been 2 series. First of all, he went to his hometown of Preston and assembled a team of youngsters to try and make them fall in love with cricket. And then, in the second series, he took them on a cricket tour to India. Amazing. In the interim, of course, he had his very serious car crash, which you can still see the sort of facial scarring that came from that. Anyway, yes, he won an award. You see at the beginning of this, he's mentioned in the House of Commons by Rishi Sunak, praising his work. And he's coming back to try and enthuse more youngsters. This time he's going to Bootle on Merseyside and Blackpool, where he's going to assemble his first girls' team, and Manchester. I loved the first 2 series of this. It's just one of those subjects that I find incredibly moving, because these youngsters, particularly when he goes to Bootle, a lot of these kids are from a pupil referral unit. So, yeah, they're challenging to work with. They've got problems, but it's just, I mean, they're great kids, and it's just so delightful to see them, after all the mucking about, being in this team and learning how to play cricket together. It just has such an impact on them and on their relationships as a group. And for their first, they can't wait to actually play a game. They're getting quite bored with all the coaching. But the first game they're going to play is against the original Preston team that Freddie put together in his first series. And they've now been playing together for 3 years. So, yeah, it's great to see the more experienced team taking on these rookies. It's also interesting to see Freddie working with girls, because he admits, he's never done that before. And in this series, the kind of progress is interrupted by something else, because Freddie is appointed to coach the second tier England cricket team, who are called the Lions. So, yeah, there's that complication as well. He's got a great team around him, though. He's got Kate Cross, who is named in the England team for the 2025 Ashes series. And he's also got Kyle Hogg, who has been on the show before, who's a former England and Lancashire cricketer. So this is just a delightful series. And if you're kind of interested in teenagers and how they, the challenges they face, and how to inspire them, and how to relate to them in a way that isn't kind of bossing them about or being patronizing. And Freddie is just so natural with them. I feel they can relate to him. I mean, none of them know who he is, but unless they've watched Top Gear, but they don't know anything about his sort of cricket, his amazing cricket career. But yeah, it really is. It's a delightful series, and I'm so pleased to see it back. It's terrific. What do you think, Hannah?
Well, Ian, the thing with Freddie Flintoff is that I just adore him. I think he's absolutely brilliant. So anything that he's involved in, I want to watch. It's as simple as that, really. But this is a little bit different, really, isn't it? I suppose to a degree. He's been through a really sort of tempestuous, difficult time in his life of late, with everything that's happened, and this is kind of bringing him back to his roots almost. It's doing what he loves the most, what he was known for, his cricket. And I think one of the most likeable, engaging things about Freddie is the fact that he is able to talk so openly and be so accountable for some of his actions, which are well publicised and made a number of column inches over the years. And he's unapologetic in who he is, isn't he? And it's been a real journey for him, which we've kind of rightly or wrongly been there for every step of the way. And I mean, he was even praised in the House of Commons for his amazing work promoting the sport he loves in Field of Dreams. And seeing him set up a youth team and then take those lads on tour in India is absolutely incredible. This is a bit different because it's a female team. And again, I think that dynamic's really interesting too. And you might hook in some different viewers just watching that. But he is the pull here because he's just so real and he's so passionate, and his adoration for a sport knows no bounds, really. And it's unusual, I think, these days with the massive price tags. I'm thinking of football probably more so, that sportsmen, sportswomen get paid, or sportsmen more so, I should say. Actually, to see somebody who just has that very raw talent and want, ability, capability and love for it is just a joy. So absolutely worth watching.
Well, brace yourselves, folks, because our next offering is hot stuff. It's a new drama series on Prime Video. I mean, it's remarkable. It's called The Girlfriend, and here's a clip.
I've never seen Daniel so happy.
Ooh, do we like her?
Jury's out.
Mum, what is wrong with loving someone who has money?
They'll never marry you.
I'd be careful if I were you. He doesn't even know who you are.
Now, Ian, where do I start with the girlfriend? There's that saying, isn't it, that, about a daughter being yours for life, but your son being only yours till he meets his wife, or something like that. I'm sure you'll know better exactly what it is. But we all know of those mums who have an incredibly amazing relationship with their son. I have 2 girls, so, you know, I don't necessarily talk with experience of a relationship with a boy, but I think from friends who have got boys, it is sort of different. It doesn't mean you love them any more or any less. It's just a different experience. And this really brings to life quite a creepy version of events, I should say, because this mother is a close bond with her only son, so, you know, even more intense, looks set to be blown apart when he meets a very strong-willed woman. It's on Prime Video. You know I love Prime Video, and it is a kind of psychological thriller. It's a 6-parter. It features Robin Wright, who also wrote it, and is also you'll probably remember her from Forrest Gump. If you love Forrest Gump, you'll know exactly who she is. So her son, Daniel, played by Laurie Davidson, starts to date a girl called Cherry. She's played by the House of Dragons' Olivia Cooke. She's a really strong kind of woman, but these 2 women straight away are sort of up against each other, vying for his attention, his affection. And he's just this, I mean, they've got a perfect life, right? Laura, she owns a London-based gallery. She's done very well for herself, and her only son is a doctor. He's also an overachiever, and they have an amazing life. And Cherry doesn't come from that sort of background. She's a working class woman, but she knows what she wants. She's got a lot of ambition, and it's arguably reflected in who she dates and who she wants to date. And you can see these women just coming up against each other, and so Daniel is stuck in the middle. And at first, it just all seems perhaps largely a bit normal, where 2 women are kind of weighing each other up. You know, is he right for my son? Is he not? You know, etc., etc. But it takes dark, horrible turns. And the brilliant thing about this is that you never know whose side you're on. So one minute you're thinking, oh my God, Cherry is just the wrong woman for him. She's just using him. She just wants him for the money. And then on the other hand, you think the mum is just incredibly overbearing. And then there's some sort of creepy, weird, sexually stuff that goes on. In as much as Cherry is kissing him in one scene, and the mother walks in, they kind of look at each other, and she just carries on. I mean, most people would jump out of bed, pull the covers over them, sheer embarrassment. It's like they're getting off on that. And then there's a kind of weird scene in the pool where mother and son are kind of playing with each other and, wrestling around, and it's just a little bit too close. I don't know whether it's the way it's been set up, but this is edge of your seat stuff. It's this is called binge watch, and this is absolutely binge watchable. You just can't stop watching it. You almost want to put it on fast because you just want to see exactly what happens at the end. It's absolutely brilliant. What did you think, Ian?
Paging Dr. Freud. Oh, it's great. I absolutely loved it. And it's directed by Robin Wright, I believe. And Robin and Olivia Cooke are both superb in it, just battling the mother-in-law and the prospective daughter-in-law. Olivia Cooke, I've not really seen her in anything else previously. Yeah, she was in House of the Dragon, but she is a force of nature in this. She is terrific. And they've done a clever thing. So that in episode 1, it's like meet the parents. So she comes, I mean, there's a lot of property porn in this, you have to say, because Sherry works for like a high-end estate agent, or they keep calling it real estate, don't they? And Laura, who is Daniel's mum, played by Robin Wright, she lives in this huge house. I mean, it looks absolutely ginormous, doesn't it? Because all the amazing interiors, and it's full of artworks. Anyway, it's quite clever. So Sherry comes to dinner, and so we see that all play out from the perspective of the mother, and then we see it all again playing out from the perspective of Cherry, and how, different people can kind of experience the same thing in slightly different ways, or kind of read in intention or whatever. It's really well done, but it's all about the women, because I do think Daniel, It's just a bit of a dick, really, isn't he? But the chemistry between them when they meet, she's showing him a property, and you can tell they just want to immediately rip each other's clothes off. Well, which they do. But yeah, little note. Maybe when you go to your first dinner party at your boyfriend's parents' house, well, actually, I'm not going to spoil it. Something happens which perhaps doesn't create the best first impression. And yes, the end of episode 1. So she's got an ex-boyfriend, I think an ex-fiance maybe. Anyway, who is now getting married to someone else, and there's real bad blood there, and that relates to the shocking conclusion to the first episode, which is just, it's, oh my goodness me, it is good stuff. So yeah, absolutely loved it, and as you say, yeah, utterly bingeable. Next up, a new Aussie horror drama series and a hard-hitting Thailand travelogue from Zara McDermott after this. We're moving across to Paramount Plus now for a new horror drama series called Playing Gracie Darling. And here's a clip.
I wanted to make sure you'd heard.
Heard what?
Another darling girl's gone missing, just like Gracie. It's like it's happening again.
Hi, I'm Joni. I am a psychologist working with Sergeant Rajeswaran.
There's no trace of her. Her phone's off. She hasn't turned up at any of the hospitals.
Frankie!
What's Playing Gracie Darling?
Gracie Darling, that girl that disappeared back in the 90s. Something is happening in this place. Something evil.
Gracie Darling, can we play?
This is a 6-parter. It starts with some teenagers having a séance with a Ouija board in a creepy abandoned property. So sign me up. Anything like that. Yes, I'm immediately on board. And of course, it all goes horrifically wrong. And then yes, and in this instance, it was a séance in the 1990s, and this Gracie Darling vanished after the séance, okay? And her friend Joni was 14 at the time. We now catch up with Joni when she's grown up. She's an adult. She's working as a child psychologist, okay? But one of the other people at the séance is called Jay, who is now a police officer in her hometown. And another young girl has vanished in similar circumstances. And there's a game that teenagers play called Gracie Darling, the name of the original girl who vanished. So teens are still doing this creepy game, and it's good stuff. I love it. It's got Dame Harriet Walter, yes, as Joni's mum, and it's an Aussie drama. I do think that Morgana O'Reilly, who is, well, like so many people, was in The White Lotus, she's terrific as Joni. I think she's got a real presence. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I like anything to do with creepy seances that go horrifically wrong. So yeah, I'm in. Hannah, you must have done this kind of thing when you were a teen. This is classic Fernando, surely.
Well, you are right, Ian. I have dabbled in things I shouldn't have dabbled with. I do hope my mother is not listening. But lots of people have, haven't they? And it is kind of creepy. And I can tell you that one event that I was doing things I shouldn't be doing, I did ask somebody did ask for all of the pumpkins that were carved out at the time with candles to all be blown out, and they all went out and nobody stood up and blew them out. So that's really creepy, isn't it? I think everybody, or most people, have a little bit of a fascination with something that they don't necessarily know about. And of course, you've got really strong believers that there are spirits, others that don't, who, from my perspective, who knows? But in that experience, it showed me that something else could be around. So this is kind of things that we just hope our children don't mess with, because you never know. And of course, this is a horror drama, so this really capitalizes on that unknown, and that's the point, isn't it? That's what makes you jump. It's the unknown. It's what's not known behind the door that jumps out at you, or what have you, or the dark and you can't see what's there. And this really capitalizes on that. So as you say, the child psychologist is forced to confront this horrific incident from her teenage past. And I don't know, I found it really interesting, actually, as well as really creepy, because it taps into a kind of an area that a lot of people are interested. But, you know, when people go missing, you start to really it starts to really freak you out, doesn't it? And now the fact that Johnny's now working as a child psychologist, I don't know, what makes us do it? What makes us go and do these things? What makes us interested? I don't know, but it's scary and really good. I think it's absolutely worth a watch. With Halloween nearing, not in the too distant future, we're gearing up for a scary season.
We're going to return to BBC iPlayer for our last selection, which is a 3-part documentary series called Thailand, The Dark Side of Paradise. And here's a clip.
Everyone is coming to Thailand.
It's luxury.
This is a dream, isn't it? I want to swap it for the world.
An escapism.
It's like Benidorm on steroids.
But one wrong move could put you in real trouble real fast.
My brother was murdered. It wasn't an accident.
You're not only free to be a man, you're encouraged to do so.
As long as you've got enough money, you get away with anything here.
Been in Thailand less than 24 hours and I've nearly got arrested.
Now, lots of people are fans of Zara McDermott. She was on Love Island and she has a huge fan base. And this is a new documentary series which sees her visiting Thailand and kind of exposing the darker side of Thailand. I actually haven't been to Thailand. I'd love to go, and lots of my friends have gone and just rave about it, how brilliant it is. And of course, the scenery is absolutely beautiful. But with every country, there is probably a flip side to that. And this is where Zara is. And I wrote a few notes down when I was watching this because I found it absolutely captivating. And it doesn't matter who presented this. I think Zara does a very good job, I hasten to add. But actually, because she's just so shocked at what she sees, and that comes across very authentically, and she's incredibly genuine in her approach to this. But it really shocked me for a number of different reasons. And one of the ways they described it was Thailand as a hedonistic paradise for Brits abroad. And of course, you know, Ian, we are both in the game of editing. You know, we can edit content, we can edit things, and this will be highly edited, and you'll see, you know, what we're shown. But you can't make up this video footage, which, of course, the police in Thailand, despite the film crew having documentation and for paying for a license to film, were escorted out of areas because people were getting really quite cross about it. Somebody got one of the producers, one of the filmers had an ashtray thrown at their head. It got quite nasty in places, and you saw a very, very different approach, but also the sort of people that are flooding there and leaving our country or other countries. So it sort of starts at the beginning with this, as I say, quite hedonistic paradise, lots of music in the streets, a lot of fun. That you see the hostels, which are largely very well kitted out for a very cheap amount of money per night. I think under 40 quid a night. I have your own ensuite. There's a bar, restaurant within the hostels, and then there are people that are paid to look after you, make sure you have a great time. You can see the shots being done. Really, it's sort of Marbs or Ibiza on steroids, I suppose, to a degree. But those places seem to be kind of ebbing into the background now, when places like Thailand offer a cheaper and perhaps in some situations, some instances, a better proposition. But it does it actually when you get there. And Zara McDermott spends a lot of time interviewing various different people. Now, prostitution is illegal there. But there's an area where this is clearly happening. They did have permission to film, as I say, but the police forced them out. They followed them back to their van. It got really quite horrible. They wanted them to delete the footage that they got, and they were threatening to arrest some of the team, which was, you know, really quite scary. And you can see Zara, who the camera's on pretty much all the time. Her eyes are like saucers at times. She just can't believe what she's seeing. But there's, I think, as I say, there's lots of things that sort of shocked me about this. I think, the darker side that we don't see, but there's much darker than that. You know, we all know some of that perhaps goes on. But there's a darker side in that there are influencers, there are channels set up of people that create content to try and get people to go over there, to give up their lives and to go to Thailand. And there's a guy, and I think it's the episode 2, there are 3 episodes here, called Mac. He's 30 and he's originally from Staffordshire, and he puts together these virtual guides to Thailand's sex industry. He shows people how to negotiate with the women, top mistakes to avoid in certain bars. And he's somewhat of a celebrity over there. People are actually recognise him in the streets. Older men who have watched him and think they know what to do. There are ideas of how to become a real man, a real relationship, a real husband. What does that even mean? It's really quite grim in places. Of course, there's also footage of people that have gone missing in Thailand, which is really, really frightening. She interviews people around that too. There are people going out there for a different life to make money. One of the guys that she interviews is making 10 grand a month. He lives in an incredible apartment, and just is living the dream. There's no way that he could do that in this country, and absolutely loves his life over there. But what does the other side look like? They can walk into any bar, anytime, the police, and ask for a drugs test. You need to give urine. It feels corrupt in places of this, the way it's kind of portrayed. And it's moody music, as I say, it's edited, we know that, but it certainly gives you a real insight into paradise, because I certainly would love to go to Thailand, and the backdrop is absolutely beautiful. But the sex tourism is really probably what this massively focuses on, and also the dreams of Brits going out there, like one couple who are living in a tiny sort of bedsit place, 15 floors up, I think they are, just desperate to make their money and stay there. They just don't want to go back. Someone else who was I think he chefed for 3 months or 5 months, something like that, to make the money to be able to go and do a trip there. He's interviewed and he talks about he just paid for sex. He paid for it twice. He said to the woman, "I'm not paying you again." But then she kept coming back, so you don't need to pay me. But he said it could be a scam. He says there are situations where women will do that, but then you're caught up and then you go home and you have to send money. It's kind of eye-opening. And Zara does a really good job with this. I think it's massively, massively interesting to a lot of people.
I found it fascinating, I must say. And I was impressed by Zara McDermott, who I guess she's kind of going down the Stacey Dooley route a bit, and she's just got, as you say, she's just got a very authentic reaction to everything she comes across, and she's just able to, like, she hangs out with these youngsters who are backpackers and hits the bars with them, and they're very relaxed in her company because she's just like one of them, so I think she does a good job. I am from the days when you didn't have a gap year, and the most you would do maybe was a little interrail trip to Europe. But of course, people are, flooding to places like Thailand, Vietnam, aren't they? So I was interested to find out more. And I've got to say, Bangkok, certainly the tourist areas, it looks pretty grim. It's pretty awful. And she hears stories about the sex industry, for instance, that, British fathers bringing their sons over and paying for them to have sex with a prostitute. So that, I mean, it's that really, it's just grim. Also, what's quite interesting is the legal situation, particularly in Bangkok. I mean, I know someone who was over there, was smoking something or other, the landlady reported him to the police, and then of course you have to pay a fine, and if you want to get out quicker you pay a bigger fine, but if you haven't got the money, bad luck. So you feel like there's a lot of corruption in terms of basically getting money out of tourists, and you see the police mob-handed descending on a bar, and they're allowed to force everyone there to have to take a urine test to find out if they've taken drugs. So there's all these things that are illegal but tolerated. The people who are doing, well, you know, the clubs with sex workers in them, the police are okay with that, but they're targeting the tourists who are taking the drugs or, you know, paying the sex workers. It's as Zara explains, it's kind of it's a weird situation. It's a kind of blurred line, really. But yeah, I look forward to perhaps seeing some of the more picturesque parts of Thailand as well, which she will do, and she'll be I think she's going to a spiritual retreat as well. She's going to go to a full moon party. I mean, you know, it's just, there's a lot of young people partying a lot, but of course there are dangers as well. Drink spiking, you know, I think there's a young lad who got stabbed in the throat with a broken bottle, and yeah, cases of people going missing, as you say. So for someone like me who's never really done the big trip to the Far East, yeah, this was really good. We've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what the hell you've been binge watching this week.
Well, I have been exposed to The Summer I Turned Pretty yet again. That doesn't seem to be dying a death in our house anytime soon. But actually, I secretly enjoy it. It's a secret binge for me. And also Charlotte's new baby, which is on Paramount Plus. Some of you might remember Charlotte from Geordie Shore. Yeah, it was light entertainment on a Saturday night.
Because I'm very predictable, I have been watching yet another sports documentary on Netflix about American football. America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, which is a potted history of the Dallas Cowboys and how this guy who made a fortune in the oil business bought the team. Anyway, I won't spoil the story, but it's a very good watch. Now, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's podcast. So what's on the agenda, Brenda?
Well, Jude Law brilliantly is back, and Jason Bateman are New York brothers under threat from gangsters, a new Netflix drama, Black Rabbit.
Good stuff. And John Cleese's talkie hotel Fawlty Towers reopens its doors in the stage version of the classic sitcom on You and Gold. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, dear listeners,
Watching!